Today, the Russian dictator said that by substituting imports, Russia will not become the world's first technological powerhouse, and they need it, and therefore Russia must achieve technological leadership by using its own developments. This sounds very ridiculous, given the level of the Russian economy, the level of how Russia is currently enjoying these so-called benefits from its partners. What Putin is saying sounds very ridiculous. He is working for the Russian audience. I suggest you listen to it. We have repeatedly discussed issues related to technological leadership. At the first stage, after the introduction of a large number of sanctions, we, of course, were engaged in import substitution. However, we will not achieve technological leadership by focusing exclusively on import substitution and so-called reverse engineering. We need to develop our own products and organize production on our own platforms. And now we have both the level of technological development and the state of the economy that allow us to do this. So I would like to ask you, of course, to pay attention to this when identifying promising projects that you support. Meanwhile, there is more information that Russia may be considering an air ceasefire in Ukraine and making this sort of goodwill gesture towards the United States, towards President Trump, to avoid these secondary sanctions that Trump has already talked about. Bloomberg writes about this. Meanwhile, we can see what kind of truce Russia wants. Vladimir Zelensky wrote that the Russians had attacked Ukraine with ballistic missiles, almost 50 drones, most of them of Russian-Iranian origin. Many drones were shot down by our defenders. Unfortunately, there were hits. And the Ukrainian president told about the hit in Lozova in Kharkiv region. According to Zelensky, Russians struck with Shaheds, used more than 25 missiles on civilian infrastructure, and damaged the railroad, depot, and train station. The strikes killed people, and the president expressed his condolences to the families and friends of the victims. Zaporizhzhia, Odessa, and Sumy regions were also under fire that night. In Belenka, Zaporizhzhia region, the occupiers attacked people with FPV drones. 2 people were injured. The Russian army is hunting people to intimidate frontline towns. The world now sees that sanctions against Russia and secondary sanctions against all those who help it profit from oil can work if they are strong enough. The pressure must be increased, and this will work for peace. I am grateful to the U.S., our European partners, the G7 countries, and everyone who is ready to put the necessary pressure. Speaking about the situation on the contact line, the occupiers are trying to bypass Kupiansk to force the Ukrainian military to leave the city, but the occupiers' intentions are being blocked. Yuri Fedorenko, commander of the 429th Regiment of Unmanned Systems Achilles, said this: "Since the enemy cannot push through Kupiansk on the left bank and cannot advance in Krylyakivka, they have the tactic of bypassing Kupiansk from the northwest outskirts, meaning they are not entering the city itself, but are aiming to take fire control over our movement routes. After that, they plan to reach the left bank and thus put the defensive forces under pressure, forcing them to abandon Kupiansk." Also, the Ukrainian defense forces have been blocking the occupiers for the past 14 days. The Russian invaders failed to advance. Ukrainian defenders are taking certain measures to improve their situation and regain their positions. And accordingly, they seal the front line. Fedorenko emphasizes that the enemy will continue its active hostilities, including in the Kharkiv region. To confirm what I said, we remember very well 2 or 3 weeks ago Putin's statement in which he said that the issue is not only in the areas listed, but also in the buffer zones. This means that Sumy, Kharkiv, Chernihiv, Dnipro, and other regions that are adjacent to Ukraine's Donetsk, Luhansk, and Kherson regions are in the threat zone. In other words, he will continue to carry out strike and assault actions. Complete occupation. This is what the enemy wants. And that is why he is introducing air terror, because he is not succeeding at the front. Dear viewers, the rear must support the front. We talk about this constantly in our broadcasts and urge you to do so again, right now. Please scan the QR code that you see on the screen and contribute any amount you like. The Channel 24 Foundation is raising funds for a Ford Ranger for the Kraken unit. This is a car that will be equipped with electronic warfare protection. I urge you to please make a donation. Right now, for our soldiers to be protected, for Ukraine to survive. Only we can do this. Despite all the statements of European and American leaders, our partners, the Kremlin, and so on, only we are fighting. Let us remember this. Thank you for being aware. Thank you for being with the 24th.